Welcome back to A Musician and a Filmmaker. I'm Greg Phipps, I'm jordaned by my co-host joining Randall, Jordan Randall, the legend, and we're joined once again by Lucas. Wow, I need to drink more
This
coffee.
This is the best intro you've ever done, Greg.
Yeah,
and we are joined by Lucas from Studio Sparks once again. We had him on previously to talk about Reset, which he had absolutely nothing to do with the graphic design of at all. He just loved the album so much. We invited him on.
Big fan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, but that's a joke, obviously. He has collaborated a number of times with Panda Bear and Sonic Boom on their album art for their two solo albums, upcoming A Question of When. You're also in collaboration with a band called Bright Eyes from, I don't actually remember where
Nebraska.
they're from, but okay, well, there you go.
There you go.
We're here to talk about two of their albums, and do I remember what they're called? No, I don't. Jordan, you should do that part of the intro.
Greg, I gotta say, that don't change a thing in editing about that intro. It was perfect as it was. The two albums we're talking about today are I'm Wide Awake It's Morning and Digital Ash in a Digital Urn, two albums that were released simultaneously in 2005. Where do we start? We should probably start with Wide Awake It's Morning, I feel, is the natural sort of like first album. Would you agree, Lucas?
Yeah, but I just want to know about like Greg's background with the band. Like, are you listen to Bright Eyes? Are you familiar with some albums?
We're gonna get right into this
just,
right off the bat.
Just to understand,
I'll be completely honest. I literally only knew one song, and it wasn't even their version. It was the Killers cover of Four Winds. Which is not on either of these albums. But
I didn't know the Killers had a cover for that song.
Well, it was a B-side on one of their singles from the 2008 album Day and Age, so it's not as like mainstream as, Human. I was trying to think of the name of the song because the lyric is "Are we human or are we dancer?" Which we'll save that for the Killers episode. But yeah, that's literally all I knew about Bright Eyes. And then Jordan's like, yeah, he wants to talk about these two albums. I'm like, all right, let me give them a fair shake. And I got to say, it's really not my thing. I'm sorry.
So this is going to be a blast to get through this episode, knowing now that Greg has never really listened to Bright Eyes before like 2 days ago, and he's listened to two of what I would consider to be, and I would say many, many Bright Eyes fans would consider to be, two of the best entries into this band's discography. And it's just not Greg's thing.
It's their Merriweather.
I think it's indie folk in general, but the fact that Conor Oberst, at least back then, had a tendency to just veer way off key when he was in the middle of a lyric, I think kind of compounded on my, how do I put this politely? It compounded on my lack of enthusiasm. There you go.
See, what you're missing, Greg, is that's part of the charm of the whole thing. But we can sort of talk about this, I guess, before we go right into the album. Like, what is, Lucas, to you, where were you in your life when you heard these albums? Like, how familiar were you with Bright Eyes at the time when these albums came out, or when you listened to these albums? Let's hear
I think
your story.
I guess I started to listen between in their time. It was between these releases and Casadega. I remember that I was like online when Casadega was coming out. I was born in Brazil, and I was probably around 15 years old, so I didn't know many words in English, so I didn't understand much of what he was singing, but I kind of felt what he was singing, I guess. I think I read like there was like a girl back in Brazil who has kind of like a blog, and she used to write about music, and I think, which is a common thing. I see a lot of people in Reddit saying, "Oh, I discovered Bright Eyes through a girl. Like a girl showed me Bright Eyes." It's kind of like a common thing. But I remember they are they were kind of compared with emo back then, which I found it very strange because like emo at that time, like the biggest band was like My Chemical Romance and stuff like that, and I didn't find it much similarities between the two. But of course, like if you go back to their first records, they are kind of like screamo in a way. So they were very like emotional in a sense, very like kind of dramatic in a way. But yeah, I really like it. I really like this stuff, and then Casadega was like strange turning point for me because that was like not the same vibe at all. And then I grew up, and then I kind of like got a bit away from I found Animal Collective, I guess, and other stuff. And then in a few years ago, I had I came back because I guess like Connor kind of became back to like he started to become more popular again because of his involvement with Phoebe Bridgers and the Better Oblivion Community Center thing.
And millions of other people were once again introduced to Bright Eyes through a woman.
That's it. Exactly. That's a good way. And then they came back during COVID with a new record, and I really like that new record. And then with this last one, the Five Dices, something. That's how I came in touch with them. I found it strange when you, Jordan, told me that Digital Wash was your favorite one, because between the two, I always dig it more Digital Wash, but I thought that was like something that it was just me, because Wide Awake, I feel like Wide Awake is way more acclaimed, and I always felt that I like some songs of Wide Awake, but as a whole, I don't know. There's like some stuff that I'm not super into, because I don't know if it's just me, but I feel that in some songs it feels a little bit the instrumental. It feels a little bit like like Audio Django, or those like free sounds for commercials stuff.
Right.
Free
like
how do you
stock
say
music.
like stock music, for like early 2000s, like with the with that commercial vibe. It feels a little bit like that for me, some tracks, but I guess that on top of everything, I think his lyrics is what I connect more with.
Totally. Yeah, I would definitely echo those sentiments. The lyrics are what, because like when it's so fucking funny that you say that it was introduced by a girl, because that's exactly what happened with me as well when I first got into
yes, all the time.
All the time. So I think the first song that I heard from Bright Eyes was Lover I Don't Have to Love from Lifted, which was the album that came out before these two. And it was like one of those weird songs where it's like, at first, everything in my body told me to not like it, but then there was something appealing about it that kept bringing me back to it. And then I think, it's like when you start drinking like alcohol for the first time as like a teenager, and you're like, you spit it out and you're like, what the hell? People drink this? It's fucking horrible. And then you have a couple more sips, you're like, oh, I understand now. And then you become an alcoholic. So it's like Bright Eyes, I think, is the same deal, where it's like, I was listening to Lover I Don't Have to Love, and I was like, why would anyone like this? This guy's voice is terrible. Like, it's weird. Like, the
You're
parts
saying
aren't
it's an
necessarily
acquired
matching.
taste.
It's what I'm saying. And so, but it's funny because I kind of forced myself to acquire the taste by just like, I think I was trying to impress the girl that showed me the Bright Eyes in the first place. I was like, let me just try and wrap my head around this thing. So I did, but it unlocked so much more for me, because then like those were the days of, like Kazaa and LimeWire and shit. And I was downloading like all these Bright Eyes songs from random parts of his, musical history. And I was like, some of these are rougher than others, but I'm starting to understand it. And then, like, I ended up hearing, Wide Awake It's Morning and Digital Ash. And I think the reason that I feel like I tell people that Digital Ash to me is the better of the two, and why it's one of my favorites, is because I think it's truer to like the sound of Lover I Don't Have to Love. Like, if you listen to Lifted, it's kind of got like a mix of the Americana, like folk stuff, but then there's a bit of like sounds you might hear on Digital Ash. And I think it's like they may, I don't even know if this is what happened, but I can imagine that like when people were listening to Lover I Don't Have to Love and then like listen to whatever song comes next on that album, we're like, oh shit, it's like a country
Very
song
different,
comes next.
yeah.
You'd be like, this is kind of weird in the same, album. So it kind of almost made sense for them to be like, well, let's just do 2 albums and show everyone like what we're capable of doing without it necessarily alienating the listener on one specific album. So it's like, we'll do our country folk Americana album, and then we'll do our like kind of experimental alt rock album at the same time.
Electronica, even.
I mean, it's got elements of electronica,
Well,
but it doesn't.
It starts out very much an electronica album, but then as you get to like the halfway point, it's like, no, it's just a regular Bright Eyes album now with maybe an occasional synth here or there.
It's a rock album, but it's I don't know. They're both really cool in their own way, but I feel like Digital. I don't think I was ready for the folk Americana at that point in my life when I heard like Wide Awake It's Morning. I was like, some of these songs I'm all about, but then I'm like listening to another traveling song or something. I'm like, okay, that's not my experience. I wasn't like ingesting too much like folk folk music at the time.
Is Canadiana a thing?
Sure is.
That's like Arcade Fire? Or...
No, I would say Bare Naked Ladies or something like that.
Okay.
Our Lady Peace.
Our Lady Peace, maybe.
I never felt this with his voice. For me, I never had a problem. Like, you guys probably know, clap your hands and say yeah. That guy has a kind of strange voice, or like now Cameron Winter. But with Connor, I never felt that. I just felt that it's kind of, I guess, more like a normal voice. It's not like a proper like singer. But it felt familiar. It felt like a friend was singing, and I like that. So I never had like much issue with his voice. I was more like with some tracks was a bit. The instrumental was a bit boring. Like I was never like a country guy. It's never my style, and some songs go in that direction. So, but I found very interesting what you mentioning about the Lifted track, the Lover I Don't Have to Love, because I guess Digital Wash kind of feels on that same world.
Yeah, totally. And I think that like the cool thing though, like with A Wide Awake It's Morning, is that even though I wasn't like into country music, just like you were saying at that point in my life, it kind of opened doors a bit more for like country folk music for me. Cause like, I would imagine most people are somewhat familiar with Bob Dylan at, in their teenage years and stuff like that. And maybe get into that kind of music for a bit. And I think like Bob Dylan's a pretty apt sort of comparison for Conor Oberst in general, because the comparison's been made a bunch of times, especially when he was coming out, that it's basically a singer-songwriter with a voice that, like you said, is kind of more normal, not really a singer's voice, and is very heavily focused on the lyrical content and these like turns of phrases that are, anything from introspective, heartbreak to like outside world, like, politics and stuff like that. So the fact that he had Emmylou Harris doing a lot of the backing vocals on Wide Awake It's Morning was like kind of crazy, because I even before Bright Eyes I was pretty familiar with the album Isis by Bob Dylan that had Emmylou Harris quite a bit on that album. So I was like, this kind of feels like the modern reinterpretation of Isis. And what an unfortunate album title that ended up
What an
being.
Unfortunate sentence to have to say. I think I know what the modern interpretation of Isis is, but
we'll
save that for a different episode.
Interpretation. Yeah. Wide Awake It's Morning really grew on me with time, and for anyone and I know you're going to say it, Craig, that for anyone that doesn't like the opening track to Wide Awake It's Morning with the spoken word intro.
It's not that I dislike the opening track. I was just kind of confused because I thought like, is this like a what do you call it? Like a framing for the album? Like, okay, we're gonna get spoken word stuff, every 3 or 4 tracks. Like, I was kind of open to that, and it's an interesting way to start an album for sure. Like going from spoken word and having it's almost like a Lou Reed kind of like stream of consciousness songwriting until like the proper structure kicks in. But then they just don't do that. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's just an interesting little unique way to start an album. But I think it wouldn't be like, I mean, is that like an Animal Collective, you can throw on Peace Bone and within 5 seconds the song is started. Like, is that a similar thing for At the Bottom of Everything? Like, are you just going to randomly be like, I'm going to listen to the album all the way through? Because I was actually picturing while I was listening to it for the first time, I'm like, is this one of those songs where when they play it live, everyone in the crowd is reciting the story in unison with Connor on stage? Or does that just not happen at all?
That's a good question, because I don't know if I've seen Bright Eyes play quite a few times, and I don't know that I've ever actually heard that song played live. And if I have, Lucas, you'd probably know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of recently came to visit your country. I went to LA for the concerts. Actually, so they did 3 anniversary concerts for these albums, and I went to the LA one, and it was actually the only one that was successful in a way with no problems, because the first one got canceled and they had like to do in another day, and then the LA was okay. And then the New York, they played the Wide Awake part, and then they had to cancel everything. So
was it like the Death Cab for Cutie anniversary one where they did Transatlanticism and then the Postal Service album, like in the same concert?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. They were like playing the whole Wide Awake and then Digital Ash after. And in New York, they could only play the first half. And both issues in the 2 dates were weather related. It was the same weekend as the Government Ball, and other events also had problems with that. So Connor, he wrote on Instagram that I guess they didn't make much money. I guess they lost a bunch of money doing these concerts, but it was cool. So and I saw them playing the track, so I can say that nobody was singing that part. No, I think I think in the live, I think they probably found a longer version. So I think he was telling more stuff.
It's like when Weird Al does Albuquerque live and he just adds extra stuff to make it even longer and more annoying.
Yeah.
One thing to mention is that Greg doesn't know this, but Bright Eyes has like kind of a tradition of
I was gonna say
first song on every record is kind of like a weird intro. Like you kind of get that from the Digital Ash intro as well. It's kind of drawn out and it's very setting the tone for the kind of palette that you're about to experience. But like every album each time it's something kind of different, but it's like always kind of like a strange drawn out way to get into the album.
Yeah, I read him
emphasis on drawn
saying
out.
That the idea is should be more kind of like a short movie. I think he mentioned it. There are some like more annoying parts in the discography, especially like in Fevers and Mirrors. At the end, there's like such an annoying track, which is like a noise. Do you know which one I'm mentioning, Jordan?
I think I know what you're talking about.
And then there's like a fake interview with it's kind of cringe too.
Yeah, that's right.
I imagine like Greg will hate that
What
so
was
much.
the song on
that,
Digital Ash in a Digital Learn that has the baby crying?
The theme for Pinata?
Yeah. That was that was when I pretty much decided that I was not going to come into this podcast.
The baby crying is ship in a bottle. Yeah, theme for Pinata has the cheesiest lyrics because that's the one where it's like.
I mean, if we're talking cheesy. Road to Joy is probably the crown achievement.
No, Road to Joy is...
No.
It's just an adaptation of Ode to Joy. I mean...
Well, that's exactly it. It's very self-aware. I mean, like, it's probably... it's the title track for all intents and purposes. It's the only track that says, I'm wide awake, it's morning on it. And the line, I could have been a famous singer if I had someone else's voice, but failures always sounded better. Let's fuck it up, make some noise. That is like... That's like
I did like that
fucking
moment,
hair stand up.
The rest of the song,
of the
I couldn't
album.
pay attention to the lyrics because I was just thinking about the first Die Hard movie.
But that's a good thing too,
I guess. But yeah, the one where the babies were crying, and I think that's the one where his voice is just like it's just not in key at all for pretty much the entire song. And I'm like, number 15 on the Billboard charts. So, I mean, there's something there. Maybe I'm just not getting it. But, I mean, I think my brain just kind of categorizes this in the same way that I do, like, In the Airplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel, where I'm like, when I listen to it, I can see what appealed about it. When I listen to it, I can hear what was appealing about it to the 4chaners and you know, whatnot of its time. But, you know, you can only see it on so many topsters before you're like, okay, what's this all about? And then you finally listen to it and you're like, guess you had to be there. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, if they have fans and they've, you know, lasted this long as a band.
Are you admitting right now that you don't understand the appeal of In the Airplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel? Greg?
No, I'm saying I understand the appeal. I'm saying I don't enjoy listening to it.
That's even crazier. Hey,
you know what? At least I gave it a shot, all right? I could have just dismissed it outright and been like, never.
Well, that's true. But you still should give it more shots, I would say, because that's a phenomenal record.
Yeah,
but it does bring up a good question.
With a gun, I'll buy a vinyl and I'll shoot it.
Whoa!
with a minigun.
So what happens? It's the Texas mentality.
It'll be a really expensive destruction, but it'll be worth.
I would have to say though that there's an interesting point that you touched on there, Greg, which is that is Bright Eyes a moment in time? Like, because I mean we're all different ages here. Greg doesn't seem to necessarily immediately feel connected to it, but like, I feel like
is Gen Alpha.
I'm not.
No?
I'm right at the end of being a millennial. I'm like within like 6 months.
On the cusp.
Yeah.
Well, this is the question though. Is like, do you need to be like in your mid to late teens to really, you know, get the Bright Eyes thing? Like, because I feel that when I was listening to Bright Eyes, like when I was really, you know, diving deep into Bright Eyes, it's when I was like in my late teens and I was having those emotions and I was starting to become a, you know, quote unquote critical thinker of the world experience around me. And it's like, it seemed to just perfectly package like some of the ideas that I couldn't necessarily articulate with the lyrics. So it's like, I can kind of see as I've grown as a person, like, kind of Conor Oberst's songs growing with me, and like, you know, his songs now are very different than what they were back then. But I wonder for people like listening to Wide Awake right now, or even further back, like Lifted right now, are they going to be like, holy shit, this is super cringe, like emo stuff? Like this is, you know, like I truly don't know, because my perception could never be that, because it, you know, it started off so different.
I don't know.
Doesn't even one of the songs on one of these albums say that he's 23 at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, my first album I made, I was 20, and I feel like if I listened back to it now, I'd be like, "Shut up, you whiny little bitch." But I can say that about myself, you know. I'm not gonna. Anyway, Lucas, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I kind of don't know how to answer that, because I like I was mentioning, I kind of had a revival. I've been listening again, like a few years ago. I went back and I went deep into the whole discography. But I also listened when I was young, so I don't know if I never have heard. Probably, I don't know. But like some songs like Poison Oak, I think they are kind of like timeless in a way. I think I would resonate with that track even today, even if I didn't know who they are, I think. And yeah, I don't know, like First Day of My Life, I can see it's a bit like dated, I would say. But Lua, I think Lua is like a beautiful kind of like timeless track. So I don't know. And I heard that like Wide Awake for them was kind of like a surprise that it was such a successful record, because it was like compared with Lifted, it's kind of like a more minimal album. I think they didn't. The way that I saw them describing is that they like Conor made these tracks and they felt that they didn't have like to put much of their parts. I'm speaking as like Mike Mogus and Nate and the other members. Like they like I guess Lua is a good example of that, because it's kind of like just Conor in a way. So compared with the other records, it's kind of more like a solo Connor record a bit. And then in Digital Ash, then they plugged all the plugins and invited a lot of people. In LA, I've met the Nick from EAAS, and he
Nice,
plays
Nick Sinner.
in Digital Ash. I had no idea. Like, I always thought that Digital Ash was kind of them too with a laptop, just because it's like electronic. I thought like, oh, they got like a softwares for this, but no, they invited a lot of people, and for this live stuff, I thought it was gonna be like Digital Ash first, and then Wide Awake to finish, because like it's such a famous album, but no, they started with Wide Awake, and it was cool because it was still early, so there was like the sun outside, and then as it turned dark, they made a lot of like visuals for Digital Ash. They really put a lot of effort in the Digital Ash part, which I found it really, really cool, because I felt that album never had much, the attention that it deserved. I think when they first toured, I read somewhere they mentioning that they, instead of like touring them together, they decided to tour it separately. So when they played with Wide Awake, a lot of people came by, and then when they toured with Digital Ash, it was kind of like a bit empty. So I think back then Digital Ash was not very, like, people didn't care much about that record.
Yeah, I think when it came out, it like, and maybe still to this day, it almost feels like the B-sides album, where it's like Wide Awake is the main release, and then Digital Ash was like, oh, here's another collection of songs. But it was like, no, these are two totally different records with two totally different sounds. But that sounds really fitting, though, that because, like, yeah, I get what you're saying. It would feel like the bigger album would be like the grand finale or like the main event, but Wide Awake feels like a daytime record, and Digital Ash feels like a nighttime record. So that sounds like the perfect way that they played that.
Yeah.
So talk to us a bit about how you ended up at this concert. So what was your involvement with Bright Eyes to get you to go all the way to the States to see this performance?
Oh, I like, we went just because we were not paid to fly to LA. We paid by ourselves. We were just like, it was like a bunch of, coincidence. Like, it was, I when they announced this, it was something that I would like to go. I also never went to LA, and was Chris, my girlfriend's birthday. So it was, we found a bunch of reasons to book the trip. And we made the promos for that. There's like 2 videos for social media that we did. One with Connor, like with a cake and some candles. He tries to blow it, but they use those candles, those sparked ones that they don't.
Right.
How do you say?
They don't extinguish.
Yeah, they don't extinguish, so he keeps blowing. And then we did one announcing the concerts. That was cool because they gave us like access to a bunch of like footage for back in the day. But then we are also working on helping Connor with a short movie that he's doing.
No way.
Yeah, and there's he shot in Omaha, but there's like a dream sequence that he wanted to be animated, and there's also like some other animated aspects. So we helped him with that at the beginning of the year. It was supposedly like to be done in January, but then when we went to LA, he was still like working on it. So it was nice to still like see the process. So we didn't make anything for the concert itself, but it was cool to go and visit LA too. I was pretty surprised with how LA was. I was expecting more like GTA, but it's kind of like super. It's pretty chill in a way. Everybody's kind of like everything is super distant from. You need to have a car for everything. I was not like super. We thought about renting a car, but then we saw that to park there was super expensive. Everything is like so expensive there.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing about LA is that
cool
you were probably in the downtown area, or more like closer to downtown. The further south you go, that's when it gets more into like San Andreas territory.
Oh yeah.
So, that was my experience with it too, because I interviewed some filmmakers in downtown, and I'm like, this isn't bad. And then as I'm leaving the parking garage, there's a bunch of cops, and they're like, oh, there was a hit and run around the corner, and I'm like, can't even escape it. Like it's just everywhere. So
yeah. No, because
cool.
when we thought about renting a car, we saw like reviews for, because we had to find a place to park the car, and then we saw a bunch of reviews of like, oh, don't park your car here because you're gonna be, robbed, and they break the windows and everything. So we thought like we don't want to turn this trip into a nightmare if something like that happens. So it's best like to use Uber, I guess.
But that's so awesome though that you're working on this short film with cars. So
is that like their Christmas on Mars? I mean, shot it at his house.
Let's hope not. No. Well, let's hope yes and no at the same time. It's funny. Many years ago, I met Connor in Florida, and right around the time that Oddsac had come out, or maybe Oddsac was just coming out at that time, and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, you guys should make a Bright Eyes movie. I could see the cogs kind of turning, but he was like, we'll see about that. So I wonder if somehow rippled down the line this suggestion. So
do you think there's like
back to Animal Collective?
Do you think there's an opportunity for a Pavements style documentary about Bright Eyes? That's not just like a retelling, but also like a few other. I mean, they don't have to put on a stage musical, but you know what I'm saying, like a more like unconventional style to kind of match their aesthetic. I don't know. I mean, I only know these two albums, so I mean, I could completely be off the mark. But
well, I mean, like I think because they already did a documentary like with the Mystic Valley Band. I don't know, Lucas, if you've seen that, but
no, Connor... I saw an old one about the record label. What's the name? Saddle Creek.
Saddle Creek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one that they did like an album of B-sides, and it came with like the DVD of the documentary. I think it's called One of My Kind, and it was Conor Oberst when he did his first like solo album. He went to Mexico and then formed this like Mystic. They were like recording at a place called like Valle Mystico, and they formed the Mystic Valley Band. They did a documentary about that whole experience of going to like Mexico and kind of feeling this sort of like mysticism and making that record and the subsequent record after that. Yeah, I think if they did do something, it would be along the lines of that. Like that felt very like Conor Oberst, like the way it's cut was just like a home movie and like little snippets of, like everything, that it seemed of interest to Conor. And it's weird too because he's got a big beard in it, and I've never seen him with a beard, and like it's so weird.
A weird
it's
beard.
Like, you're gonna be like, who is this guy? Weird beard, but that was a cool experience actually. Like,
I think he went to kind of like identity crisis or something after these two records, because Casadegas kind of sound like that, and then the Mystic Valley Band. I don't know if it was like the success or his age, I guess. He was kind of like becoming old, I guess, and.
I think he was in a dark spot because, like, when I saw him, it was like it was actually, depending on how you looked at it, it was either like the worst Conor Oberst performance ever or the best Conor Oberst performance ever, because like he was like super wasted. I think this was 2008 or 2009, somewhere around Merriweather Post Pavilion time. That's how I reference everything.
Yeah.
He was playing this tiny venue in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I went there, and he was playing with the Mystic Valley Band, and like he was like stumbling off the stage. He was like bumping into the microphone. Like his voice, if you think like his singing in "Ship in a Bottle" is off
I can
key,
imagine it. I'm picturing it right now in my head.
Like nothing was on. Like and it seemed like he was either having some trouble hearing his voice, or he knew he was having trouble singing it. So he just resorted to like shouting all the lyrics. So he's just like screaming everything, and his face is going red. And I went outside after the show, and like the tour bus was right in front of the venue, and I'm like, well, I'll hang out here and wait. See if he comes out and get him to like sign an album cover or something. I was waiting for a while. A bunch of people came out and they were also waiting. And so it got to the point where I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to wait because this is a little uncomfortable. and there was like a bar right across from the venue. So I was like, I'll go over there and grab like a pint, and then I'll keep an eye on the bus, and then I'll come out if there's any activity. So I went to the bar, and lo and behold, like Connor Oberst and the entire Mystic Valley Band were sitting in that bar just like drinking. And I was like, all these people are like, you can see them out the window, like waiting by the tour bus, and they're just like here. So I was like, oh shit. So I walked up to him and I was like, dude, like, big fan. The performance was what it was, but I was like, great performance. I was like, can I buy you a beer? And he's like, nah, man. He's like, I'm a rock star. I got like loads of money. I'll buy you a beer. So he bought me a beer, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I'm like sitting there. And
got
I was like,
loads of money.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, do you? Like, so you're playing this tiny venue. Yeah,
he was getting that killer's residual money.
He was getting from the cover.
Publishing, yeah, exactly.
So I was like talking to him about the performance, and he was like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I kind of lost the plot tonight. And I think that was his way of saying like he fucking ruined the show. But he was pretty nice otherwise. I think he like gave me a cigarette as well, and he signed the Wide Awake It's Morning. I don't know. It was such a bad pen, you can barely see it there. But
even if it was in focus.
Yeah, the solo record, like the inlay, was all the band signed it, and
that's
his
cool.
is somewhere there too. So that was pretty cool. But I was telling him about Oddsac because I guess Oddsac was coming out, and I was like, you should make a Bright Eyes movie. And then like a year later, this like Mystic Valley Band documentary came out, and I was like, was that because of me saying that? But probably not.
Well, that's like when I brought up
how we can with that.
I think Panda did an AMA for buoys at some point, and I was like, hey, do you ever think about going back to doing live drumming? And he's like, oh, yeah, I have been thinking about it, actually. And then the next time we see him live with the band, he's behind a kit. And I'm like,
You did that, Greg.
Or did I just, tap into something that was already in the ether? Who knows? I have a question for the two of you because, well, number one, Jordan, this is very obviously, at Wide Awake It's Morning feels very much like a big influence on your solo music. At least the more singer-songwritery stuff. But I was going to ask, since you guys are so historied with this band and these albums, what are your personal favorite tracks from both of them?
I can go first. I think Poison Oak is like definitely from Wide Awake It's Morning the top track. Like it's so emotional, it's so raw. Everything about it works. The lyrics are phenomenal. That song, like, when I was a teenager, it brought me to tears. As an adult, it brings me to tears. It works all the time. And even like at Connor's drunkest on like stage playing that song, it only gets like more and more profound as a song. So that one for sure from Wide Awake. But I also like Landlocked Blues is another one that is just like a phenomenal storytelling, like, Dylan-esque folk Americana song with some really, really good turns of phrase. A good woman will pick you apart, a box full of suggestions for your possible heart. You may be offended, you may be afraid, but don't walk away. I mean, great lyrics that, as a kid, like Connor Roberts was a kid writing this stuff. You're like,
yeah,
dude.
I think about that a lot.
A 23-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I've been at like bars, like sitting there with like old drunkards that are like telling me problems they're having with their wife. And I've said that line to them, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's deep."
You're like, yeah, I came up with that all by myself. No, you just take credit at that point.
Yeah. Well, what I say, it's a quote that I always quote, and I'll say the line, and then they're like, "Whoa, who said that?" I'm like, Connor Oberst. They're like, "Never heard of him." I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't.
It's in the Bible, actually.
Yeah, it's a quote from the Bible.
2 Corinthians.
But those are the two from Wide Awake, and then I think if I were to pick favorites from Digital Ash. That's tough because I think the whole thing flows really well.
Oh, okay.
I think it flows really well. But I do like Goldmine Gutted. And what's the name of it? The one that's John A. Hobson was a good man. Do you know the name of that one, Lucas? It's like near the
I'm
end.
not very good with the names for that album because it feels kind of like a short movie for me. So it's kind of like everything kind of glues together.
Yeah.
So I'm not good with names.
Light pollution.
Oh, okay.
That's
yeah.
That's just sounds like a story about some guy that got him into some of his influences, and then he like died in a car crash or something. And that song has kind of got like a bit of a punky sort of vibe to it too. But I like that one too. There's a good line about the unemployment line, and it's the pools of piss on the street.
Somehow,
I'm misquoting.
Whenever Lucas is here, we always go back to piss.
We talk about piss.
It's 2 episodes now.
I can smell.
And we just talked about an album, or I wasn't there, but Jordan just did an interview with a punk rock musician whose album was called Jenkum, which is about huffing shit fumes. So we're just a bodily fluid podcast.
We're on a track record because we also did the G.G. Allen episode like a month ago.
That's true.
So
that's why we did Pet Sounds, because we got to start veering away from the bathroom in terms of the subject matter on this podcast.
We cover Animal Collective, shit, and piss on this podcast.
Vomit. You just.
Oh, that's true. We should review the first Jackass video, the pre-Jackass video called Shit.
Yeah, right. Shit.
There you go. Lucas, favorite tracks, hit me.
Yeah, just should not repeat Jordan, because I guess Poison Oak for me, listening live, it kind of like shakes my skin. I feel like it's really a strong song. I feel like right in my bones shaking when I hear that live. But I'll go, I guess, with Easy Lucky Free from Digital Ash. It's just like a great track. It's good conclusion, I think, for the record. And I like some of his tracks that he instead of like having just one subject, he kind of like goes into a lot of things. And I think it's kind of like more of a hopeful track in a way. There's like some dark lines in there. And I also like the video, so I guess.
Yeah, the video's cool.
Yeah, that's it, I guess. I will go with Lua too. I will mention that too, because I think it's a beautiful track. But yeah, I think that's it. I would like to hear more from Greg as a critic. Like, I would like to know more, about
why it didn't work for me.
Yeah. I'm always interested in stuff like that.
Look, it's one thing to not be able to have perfect pitch. I mean, less than 10% of the world population does, or it's like 1 in 10,000 people. So it's not a common thing. So I can't knock any aspiring musician. I mean, if you're a good songwriter, but your voice isn't all there, like, I don't have anything against that, as long as you can, I don't know, make it work for the style of music you're working with. And it feels more appropriate to have that stripped down, like, in the room sound on the voice on the first album, because that is just kind of what the whole album is just more of like I don't know if it's back to basics or just sort of just like a basic setup of like, guitar, drums, strings.
So you connect a little bit more with Wide Awake than
I would say connected more with Digital, you know what I mean? Because of the electronic elements in it. And I thought that I was going to prefer it more overall because of that. And I guess I kind of do, but it's also like, like I said earlier, when it kind of just goes back to being a regular Bright Eyes album in like the second half, I'm like, it kind of lost what was special about it. And I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, the two songs that I like the most just also happen to be their two highest charting singles from this era. So maybe that says something more about me as like a guy who enjoys a good normie pop hit. Like Take It Easy, in parentheses, Love Nothing. I'm like, this is the ideal sound of like what I would expect when you're gonna be like, we're making an electronic album with some folk elements to it. But I think the thing that held me back from like, despite the the genre shift or whatever, I think the main thing that I could dig against the second album is the fact that the stripped down vocals don't match the electronica sound that he's trying to go for. Like, it, not even like a vocalizer or like reverb or delay. Like, there's nothing that makes it blend in with the palette that he's going for. It's just like his vocals just like smashed on top of everything else. And I mean, like I said, maybe that works for some people, but I'm like, I know that you can make this sound work because we just heard it from the Postal Service 2 years before this. Like, it felt like maybe inspired by the Postal Service, but it's not necessarily his main oeuvre. So I don't know. I guess I just like the hits. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Would you?
And it's not that I actually realized that when I say it, I'd never heard these albums before. It's I didn't realize that this band was as big as they were back in the day, because I've definitely heard First Day of My Life just around, like I'm sure it played on a grocery store loudspeaker. I've been to a few weddings. I'm actually going to a wedding of two people I met through the Animal Collective Discord server, and that's the only reason I'm going, because they were members in my server and on the Facebook group.
But to counter what your gripes are about the sound, Greg, I think that the lack of reverb and vocal effects on Digital Ash, I think, are see. The thing is like as
I'm sure
as a
autotune was expensive. Okay, I get it.
Well, the thing is that it's the lyrical focal point, right? It's like if you mask the lyrics with too much effect, I think it would ruin that ability.
It's not even that like masking it. It's just more of like a production thing. Like it's just like a more
I guess you're right,
aesthetically pleasing
Postal
piece
Service
did it
as well. The lyrics are still pretty intelligible, but I'm
not asking him to go like Tom York on the title track Kid A. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, give me a little something that, I mean, maybe that's his way of being like, don't get too used to the electronic sound, because we're going right back to the stuff that we just did on the previous album.
But I think when it comes to Conor Oberst's voice, though, like, I mean, there are artists that
he's not Jeff Mangum.
Like, what about?
I'll give him that.
What about like Elliott Smith or like Daniel Johnston? It's like there's artists that don't have these like super strong voices, but like it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the weight of their emotion carries the song maybe in a way that suits it better with a bad voice than it would in a good voice. I feel like Conor Oberst kind of falls into that category for me, because it's like when I hear, like, it sounds like he's always about to cry. Like that quiver in his voice is like, it sounds like he's always on the verge of like having a breakdown. So it's like, to me, that kind of helps the overall package of the emotional content of the song. Like I put it on when I want to have like a deeply introspective wallow, like I'm not necessarily listening to him to get like hyped or anything like that, So it's like I feel that shaky voice, like I wouldn't want it to be a polished, better voice, because I think it would lose what to me is part of the magic of the Bright Eyes formula.
Well, I mean, like I said, it appeals to some people. It does not appeal to me. And if all those ingredients work for you in that musical stew, then enjoy the hell out of that stew. But I'm going to, go get a burger. We'll all enjoy our beef together.
The Killers cover.
Yeah, exactly. I'll listen to the Killers Christmas album for some real music.
Yeah, Lucas, we were talking about Casadega, like, Four Winds, and the violin that, is like the main sort of like tune of the song.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Santa Claus is coming to town. It's the exact same melody.
And I didn't even remember that part of it, because I was so used to the melody that the Killers added, which is like completely different than anything that appears in the original. But then when I re-listened to it, it was the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh shit, this literally sounds like a country cover of that Christmas song. But then it turns into its own thing. I really like the lyrics in Four Winds, even though it's not on either of the albums we're here to talk about. So. But I think another part of why it didn't work for me is because of the over wordiness of how he writes his lyrics, which, again, I'm sure people love that about it. But for me, I'm just like, okay, you don't have to fill every space with extra syllables, especially whenever you're going to like spend the next two bars waiting to get to the next lyric that you cram a bunch of words into. So I just noticed a pattern emerging as the first album went on, and I'm like, I don't want to wallow. I mean, you guys love the album. I would prefer that you guys get to share what's special about it, as opposed to me being like, actually, it sucks.
Yeah.
So
no, I just ask because it's interesting to hear another perspective. It's hard for me to describe what I like too, in a way, because I just like it, I guess.
Just how about you describe it in Portuguese, and then we'll translate it for the viewers. Well, just have a guy come in and dub over your voice.
Well, I'm just thinking that like ignorance is really a bliss, because I don't this stuff that you guys are discussing is more, I would say, like technical aspects about his voice. For me, it goes through it. For me, it's like like I mentioned before, it's not like a great voice, but it kind of like feels like a familiar voice, a friend, somebody, a civil, a normal individual voice. And the thing that Jordan was mentioning, that it kind of like almost feel like he's breaking, is also a characteristic that I like, but it's not something that bothers me. So
well, I don't even think that the voice is like the main detraction for me. I mean, I think that you can have a subpar voice like Anton Newcomb of the Brian Jonestown Massacre. He can't really sing on key like perfectly, like I said, but it's also like like you were saying, that he kind of buries it in effects, so it's like not as noticeable. But I think what it is the incongruity between like the quality of the production of the instrumentals and then his voice. When you put them together, I'm kind of like, it doesn't really add up. You know, I kind of wish that they were both on the same par. But it's also like, I don't dislike the voice in general. Like throughout I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning, that wasn't really what was like coloring it negatively for me. Like I understood why it was the way it was. And you know what? It may not be the best voice, but at least it's interesting, like Jordan was saying. Like he can emote through the notes as opposed to just like playing it like an instrument, you know. And for lack of a better term. So, like he said, he's a mega rock star. He's got tons of money. Clearly he's doing something right.
So much money.
Godspeed.
It'd be interesting to hear, actually, Greg. You should listen to, I'm sure you're familiar with this project, the Desaparecidos. You know what I'm talking about, Lucas? This is
the punk.
It's a punk band.
Yeah.
So Conor Oberst, they did 2 albums, if I'm not mistaken, and it's like a punk band with Conor Oberst being the main singer and songwriter behind it. I wonder if you might find that to be a little more palatable, because like in those recordings, I feel like the production level of the instrumental and the vocal are like equally matched, because they're trying to do a raw thing all around. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your take on that, because that was pretty good. In fact, I have one of them sitting right here.
I'll listen to it right now, and you guys can sit there in real time and watch me react, and this will be a 3-hour-long podcast.
Listen to 2 albums in your own time, Greg. Listen to it.
I can't make any guarantees, but I'll take it into consideration about that.
Jordan, have you listened to the companion versions that they?
Some of them, yeah. I haven't listened to. I kind of skimmed them because, admittedly, like
I'm not a big fan of those.
Yeah, they didn't engage me the way that the other stuff did initially. So I kind of was just like, okay, I'm not going to really revisit it because it doesn't feel that strong. But I don't know. There's something I'll also kind of say that, like, from the perspective of someone like myself who got into this band at 16, 17, and now I'm 38 years old. Like, a lot of time has passed, a lot of life experiences have passed, and it's like I do find myself going back to the Bright Eyes albums that I listened to as a younger person more so than the stuff he's been doing lately. And I feel like with those companion albums, I was like, this feels more like the stuff he's doing lately that's not, for whatever reason, it's not clicking with me on the same level. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. The TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, someone was like, how many seasons of that show are there? And I'm like, I have no idea. And it was like the funniest show I'd ever seen in my life. And I watched religiously for like 10 years straight. And now, like, I know I could watch new episodes, but the idea to watch it, it's like, it doesn't even enter my head, because I've hit a wall with that show where I'm like, I got everything I needed out of it. And if they stopped or if they kept going, it would make no difference.
Well, that's
to me.
also what it's like watching the show. Like, you watch the show now and you're like, I'm pretty sure they're only keeping this going just because they can, not because they want to keep that same sort of like thread going,
Simpsons is like that too, right?
Oh,
right.
Totally.
They're just here to break records at this point.
Yeah. Although I think like Connor's still doing it because he's still got stuff inside him that, has to come out in some form. But I think for me as a listener of that band, I've like the sound of it from the last two records hit a wall where I was like, I'm not getting that variety of sounds, even with an album like Casadega. Like, I actually like Casadega because there's a variety of sounds on it, but yeah, I don't know. The last two, they didn't do it for me, and the Companions didn't do it for me. But
No,
better Oblivion Community Center did do it for me. I actually think that record slaps so hard, and like so few people have actually even heard it.
I like the last two. I like between like Casadega and what's the name of the other one? The one with
the People's Key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That one it's kind of different because he stopped like writing about personal stuff, and like Casadega, I think my biggest problem with Casadega is that I don't click with the lyrics, and then the People's Key I think is a little better, but there's like he's more into like conspiracy theories on that one. But then the
him and Tom DeLonge hanging out.
What's the name of the before the Five Dice is the longer title
yeah, I forget the name of that one.
Something in the soil. No, that's Lifted. I always mix that with Lifted. But I like that.
No, you're right. There's something in the weeds. Is that it?
Yeah, weeds. Something in the weeds.
Down in the weeds where the world once was.
That's it.
There it is.
I like that album. I think I found that album a bit similar with Lifted in a way that he was exploring a bunch of stuff inside of that, like going into a lot of different directions. And then Five Dice, there's some songs that I don't click, especially the ones with what's the name of the guy from The National and the Cat Power one. Those tracks, I don't know, they don't even feel like complete to me, they feel like sketches in a way. But he was doing something different, and I appreciate that. I think it's something very different from the beginning, but it's something that I still like. I guess the only one that I never listen is Casadega. Casadega, there are some. I feel there's a mix of two ideas in that album. One is that mystical, supernatural stuff that I like, and is present in some songs like the first one or the last one, Lime Tree. But then there's this country band element, and that stuff I don't like very much, And I think the lyrics, he became a bit repetitive in that album. There's a bunch of like lyrics where he just like repeating the same structures. I think he went into the total opposite from Wide Awake and the albums before, where he was like writing a lot. In this one, he's more like just, I guess, also going into a more traditional songwriting way, I guess. And then there's like some strange tracks like Old Cars, which it's about, I think, his relationship with Winona Ryder. So
is there a song on that album called "Please Stop Wanting to Fuck Me All the Goddamn Time, I Have Work to Do"? Are we familiar with that? The anecdote from Keanu Reeves.
What's that?
Yeah, explain.
Well, it's just he talked about being in a relationship with Winona Ryder, and he's like, she just wanted to have sex all the time. It was just too much. And people on Twitter were like, "Oh, come on."
Sounds terrible.
God, what a miserable experience you must have had. Well, speaking of artists who repeat lyrics, can we talk a little bit about your involvement in the new Panda Bear Sonic Boom album? Can you give us any teasers or just talk about experiences you had working on the stuff for this new rollout?
Yeah, it's totally different from the last one because, I speak more directly with Pete, with Sonic Boom, and when we talked, like when the first conversation, he told me we are thinking about going totally offline, and we don't want to have the album on streaming service. Except like Bandcamp. It's not just like an offline thing, but the campaign itself, he didn't want to do videos or anything related with screens or stuff like that. So at first I was like, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But then he had like some cool ideas about like going more like old school and doing zines and stickers and posters and stuff like that. So that's how we helped him this time. We didn't make. Oh, you got one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm crossing my fingers that I get one of the Lucky Charm pendants at the listening party here in a couple weeks. But
How did you got the sticker? Oh, did you received
I
it?
just signed up
Yeah.
for their like online, like when
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
like signed up for the in real life stuff. They sent that.
Yeah, we didn't make any video. We just made this stuff like a news sheet, the stickers, and now we are. Oh, I guess now we are doing videos, but it's just for the live stuff, which is also going to be very simple
Oh, like visuals to project while they
to
play.
project.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is also gonna be on the same vein as the artwork. Yeah, I think it's cool. It's a different thing. I see this reaction to social media growing each day more and more. I think, especially like I think AI is kind of like the cherry on the top. I'm somebody who misses a lot the old internet. When it was like websites, and through the design, you kind of could have a sense of the person behind the website, kind of like their houses that you visited. And now it's all like social media, it's all like
Yeah.
Instagram and
Depersonalization.
yeah. And so I don't know. I guess for them and for Domino, it's a big bet. But at the same time, I think they have already a fan base that buys vinyl and CDs and stuff like that. But I know that streaming is a big cut for artists. So I guess they're just like trying to something
should
new
be.
and see.
It should be a big cut, but it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
not. So I mean,
yeah.
we all know the La Bestia radio interview where they asked like, "What's your favorite Spotify playlist?" and Noah's like, "I get all my music off YouTube." Like just straight up admitting it that he doesn't pay for
Yeah,
music.
I think that for me the Strangers is not the album. It's not that the album is not on Spotify, but the fact that the album or there's not any song on YouTube, because YouTube is I think it's a tool to share that I think it's way more simpler than the streaming servers and I listen to a lot of music on YouTube, so it's strange that you don't have nothing to hear, but I guess
Well,
people get
even within like a day or two of the Record Store Day release of the 7-inch, someone already had a rip
Oh.
and it was up on YouTube. It's not like, I mean, there is one that has the proper song titles, but then there's another one that is like
Oh, yeah.
dog sits in chair. So you have to know exactly what the URL is if you want to listen to it, which
Oh,
I
but
can
there's
respect
a
as
re-
more than just like, here it is,
Yeah, but there's but you're saying for the album or for the singles?
for the singles. The album,
singles.
I don't think we've heard yet, but
Okay.
But the point is that at least they're doing a digital download. So if you regularly
Oh, yeah.
use
They're
like
doing
Apple
that,
Music or Spotify, you can do the local files and
Yeah.
just
Honestly,
no
though,
animations.
I love what they're doing because recently it's been occurring to me. I think a lot of people are getting a sort of negative sense from like all these streaming services and all this like AI stuff that's going around. Because like I was thinking about that, I was like doing some housekeeping like with regards to my subscriptions, because I was like, what, this massive amount of money is coming out of my bank account every month. What is it going towards? And I'm like looking at it, and I'm signed up to like every conceivable like streaming service, and then I'm signed up to Spotify.
Deezer?
I was, and so
Just because you use DistroKid to put your music on Deezer doesn't mean you have to sign up for Deezer.
well,
This is the most
obviously
airtime
did at
Deezer
some
has
point,
ever gotten,
and then
by the way.
And then I forgot about it. So that's the thing. And like, this is how they get you too, is that you forget about it, and then you're like getting charged for something you're not even using. Meanwhile, like I was telling my wife, like I've been collecting movies for years. Like I have like a DVD, Blu-ray collection with like thousands of movies. I've been collecting records and CDs and cassettes for years. I've got like a massive collection of music. I'm like, to get through all the media that I have in my house would take any human like years to get through. And then here I am spending like $200 a month on streaming services to try and find something to watch, and I spend all day just searching for something and not ever really landing on something. And I feel like the music thing is happening too. Like I'm just using Spotify to listen to albums that I already have on vinyl or that I already like listen to all the time. I'm there's too much music out there for me to comfortably just like shoot myself out and be like, I'm just going to spend hours going through Spotify and see if I like something new. I just was thinking like minimizing all that shit and then getting kind of back to the basics, I think is a good thing, because I do always appreciate something more. Well, I think it's if I purchase it, I've like spent the money, right? So it's like if I have a hard copy DVD or Blu-ray or a record or whatever, I'm like, I bought this thing, so I'm going to get my money's worth by like giving it all my attention. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I think it's just a better experience. Like,
Mm.
And also they make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like you're mentioning with the streaming service. The other day I was trying to watch. I just remember that movie Spotlight. Do you know the
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Oscar
yep.
movie? I was like,
You're the only guy that remembered it, but
Yeah. It's such a like a normie movie that like won Oscars and stuff. And like I tried to search on Netflix, on HBO, all the streaming service that I pay, and no one had that movie. In such a like a a movie that you expect to find in any
right. If it won Best Picture, it should be like
if I'm paying
Yeah.
all of this, I
part
should
of the
find
culture.
this like but no one had. And when I went to LA, I went to Barnes and Noble. That was like a dream of mine to go to Barnes and Noble.
I love that. Like
You see the-
in America,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
just like, Barnes and Noble. Don't go to the bathrooms. But you're just like,
Yeah,
I
it
come
was-
to America.
Yeah, it was that and Cheesecake Factory. I went to Cheesecake Factory and then
Nice.
Barnes and Noble, and there was all the Criterion collection there, which
Nice.
I admire. So I was finally like seeing a bunch of like movies on Criterion collection, but then I was like, I don't have a Blu-ray player. It's worthless. I have a DVD, but they don't do DVDs anymore.
Right.
So I ended up not buying anything. I was wondering if they sold like kind of like books with like images, stuff like that. Then I would get, but just like the Blu-ray, I don't have where to use that. I would like to, because I like to collect things. I like to collect movies as I collect vinyl, but I don't know. It's kind of like, I think movies is kind of like strange.
Well, it also
category,
like if you were going to buy a Criterion Blu-ray in America and then bring it back to Europe, you would need a region-free Blu-ray player
that
to
too.
even watch it.
Yeah,
which
that too.
is something I invested in because there's some documentaries that I bought on Blu-ray that I could only get on like the German version, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I got to have a player that'll actually let me watch it, or else I just wasted $30 on a documentary. Maybe not
Yeah,
wasted.
that's
I don't know.
We don't have the Criterion channel here too. It's blocked. So,
Wow.
Yeah, there's also those.
Well,
those
I'm in
things.
Texas, and we have to use a VPN to watch porn, so I feel your pain.
Oh,
I feel it. Yeah.
It's horrible.
That's arguably worse. Yeah.
So, do you have any more Bright Eyes projects lined up, or are you just like on retainer or whatever? Like they just give you a call and you're like, absolutely, yes, sir, let me get to work.
Yeah, I'm pretty much That's it. Yeah, I guess like the short movie. It's not a Bright Eyes movie. It's like kind of like a Connor thing. It's kind of like a fantasy horror thing. It would be nice if they scream in festivals like that, stuff like that. And there's one here in Porto, which would be nice if they could get to show here. But other than that, yeah, I'm just waiting for a call. And with Panda Bear and Sonic Boom stuff, I don't know if Pete's gonna have more ideas for stuff when they start touring. But for now, I think I'm curious to read the reaction of people when they listen to the album, because I think it's kind of a different thing from Reset, which you probably already felt with the singles. So that's it.
Nice. Awesome. What's one track that you think people are going to really dig on the record that's maybe not one of the singles that have been released?
The title track was already released, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we heard Lucky Charm, Graveyard, and the title track.
Which Graveyard as a closer is kind of crazy, but
it is. Yeah.
Does it make more sense if you listen to the whole album like front to back, kind of like Defense as the closer on Sinister Grift?
I don't know if not as much as that, because I think the Defense really kind of like makes part of a narrative from the album. I think this one is not like that, but yeah, I think it's in a good spot as the last one. I can say that one of my favorites is a Pete track, is the Like a Moth to a Flame. It's a beautiful track, but I think. Do you guys know? I don't know what's gonna be what was like shared about this album. So I don't know if I'm gonna say stuff that you already know about the process, but it's kind of Reset in a way that they used samples, but this time instead of directly using the samples, they got musicians to recreate the samples. So it is similar, but it's not kind of the same. So I think it's good. It's kind of like a variation on that theme.
So it's more of an interpolation than just a straight up sample, which is probably cheaper to clear.
Yeah. There's a musician that she's present in a lot of tracks called Marty Lattimore. Don't know if you know about her. She plays harp.
She's like harp.
Yeah. She's responsible for the harp emoji.
Mm-hmm. And I've been listening to a lot of harp music lately.
Yeah,
honestly,
she made I don't know how, but she is responsible for the emoji, the harp emoji on iPhones and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
That's cool.
Yeah, I read on Pitchfork that just a random fact, I guess.
Huh. So they went straight to the source, and they're like, "We need a harp emoji, but we need it done right."
Yeah, exactly.
None of these Silicon Valley nerds know how many strings there really are.
Yeah,
and how to make it look like a harp when it's like that. But well, Lucas, thanks for joining us again, because it's always cool to get your perspective as someone who's been behind the curtains on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'll be waiting on your call. I'm waiting on Connor's call, Pete's call, and your guys' call.
And Kane Parsons'
Anytime.
call. Mm-hmm. Did you know he's 21 now? He's no longer only 20 years old. He's 21.
Wow, he can drink.
What kind of world do we live in?
Well, thanks again, Lucas. Always a blast talking to you. And it doesn't matter what Greg says. These two Bright Eyes albums are phenomenal. Two of the best albums ever made. You heard it here. Greg, you just need to spend some more time with it. You got to acquire the taste.
Gotta spend some time, love.
Strap those headphones on.
Gotta spend some time.
There you go.
With me.
With Bright Eyes. Exciting to see what comes from the Bright Eyes camp in the future, and very exciting to see what comes from Studio Sparks in the future as well.
Yes.
Thanks,
if you live in Portugal, you should go by Studio Sparks and bother them while they're working, because they will really appreciate it. Not just when they're open for like events, but just like, Tuesday, 1:15 in the afternoon, just go knock on the glass. Yeah. Yeah. Charge your phone 10-15%, They don't mind. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Lucas, have a good evening, since you're 6 hours ahead of me, but we appreciate you. And, take it easy.
See you guys.
See ya.